Unbelievable heat warnings have been issued for Manitoba now, and we're all in debate in the group, but we're all pretty sure that's the earliest time a heat warning has ever been issued for Manitoba. And it also extends into Western Ontario. The heat is there. They're going to get into the mid-30s here in the next couple of days. Sunday through Tuesday, I'm guessing. Fire activity has been pretty extreme in Manitoba right now, though they took some rain today, so some fires seem calm while others do not. But also, I managed to catch on radar this afternoon thunderstorm that was going through there. I took a little look at where it was, and then I said, hey, I wonder if that thunderstorm came from this fire, was influenced by it. So I think we have some pyrocumulus thunderstorm activity. So it could be that this fire near Lake Manitoba will have been the reason why more fires were set by lightning in the region this afternoon. So that's something to look at. We will look at that right now in the show. Let's go. There it is.
This is bad news. My God. Fall out right now. Anything could happen.
Get on! Wow. I'll watch the video later. They try mopping this. Yeah, you all want to hear it. Okay, so I'm not from Manitoba. No, I am the Caribou weather dude. Okay, there you go. Hit like, share, subscribe. Let's get on with it. So we're going to see here, all that lightning came down around Ericsdale, areas to the west of Poplarfield, areas west of Chatfield, areas to the north of Lundar, south of Mulville, just along Lake Manitoba. You can see this fire right now is up near the Narrows. You can see where the moisture comes through, hits that fire, gets a little bit of extra charge. By the time it crosses the lake, it's now a thunderstorm and developed. And it doesn't last very long. No, it doesn't last very long. But I still think it's interesting activity to see that the only thunderstorms that have been firing in Manitoba have been coming through this trajectory right over the fire. We're hoping that means the fire's taking a little bit of rain. I don't have details on that necessarily. I got a little bit more evidence here to show you, though. First piece of evidence is, why are those storm cells the only ones in Manitoba that succeeded in getting fully developed into thunderstorms today? That's the first piece of evidence. And not only did they develop into thunderstorms, they developed into aggressive ones that kicked out a lot of lightning. Justin from Weather Center Manitoba said he was really surprised at how much lightning was going on in there. I was like, well, that's evidence, I says. So yes, there's a lot of little bubbles out there that would have liked to have been thunderstorms and didn't make it. But these specific ones that began at the fire just to the east of them, where the cloud is building up and moving off, maybe if you're standing there at the location of the fire, you wouldn't understand that this is moving off to become a thunderstorm. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's 3 o'clock now, so it means it's like 5 o'clock over in MB. I can see that there's smoke, for example, in the upper level. Some of this that you're seeing is definitely smoke coming from Saskatchewan side. And we're going to look at where these storms kick off from. They kick off right across. They come right across the lake, right over where our fires are showing significant activity today. Not the most I've seen off those fires, but it's that conditions have lined up correctly for them in order to contribute. So sometimes you get a thunderstorm that will develop out of these fires at a sheer heat and intensity of the fire. Sometimes it's that moisture is moving through and the air is unstable, and the heat from the fire will help drive that convection, drive those clouds taller and taller, and help create a thunderstorm for them. Joey, is that completely crazy to say that fire influenced those thunderstorm behaviors? No, it's not completely crazy at all. I'll tell you, if you are an astute weather watcher, you will have spent time kind of on the edge of a town at a high place watching the cloud development as it's going, the heat from the pavement in the town, or sometimes a bunch of runways on an airport. You're like looking, where are the cumulus clouds? What are they doing? Where exactly are they responding? You're like, oh, look, the heat from the runways of that large airport is where that convection seems to be happening. That's the sun is warming down. It's warming the pavement, the black tarmac. The tarmac's sending thermals up. The thermals are helping drive convection. And you're like, just the presence of some runways can help drive convection that feeds a thunderstorm. Why not a fire? Does it have to be that the fire's torching so big that we can see that clearly it's turning into a pyrocumulonimbus? No, that's not necessarily the case. The weather is influenced by small environmental factors. In this case, there's a fair bit of heat that's kicking up today that's helping to drive that convection. Let's have a look up at the Paw. Why am I saying the Pine Pass? The Pine Paw. I really struggle with the Paw. Every time I go to talk about it, I'm struggling about it. I can't actually make out smoke here easily right now, because this is smoke. It's coming over from Saskatchewan. Definitely, that is clearly smoke showing up on the sat image. Not seeing a lot from the Paw. There is some positive news and what's a pretty scary story there, I think, right now. Before we go over there and look at the Paw, we'll talk about This is where those fires are basically centered. We've seen those clouds coming directly over them off of Riding Mountain Provincial Park. Probably help there, give things a little bit of lift as well. So just enough moisture, just enough instability, just enough conditions there, and just enough heat in these guys. So I call this significant fire activity for absolute sure. Absolute sure it's significant. Is it the most organized flame front we've seen in Manitoba this week? Definitely not. Not even on that fire, I don't think it's the most organized flame front we've seen. Also, what's positive is we're seeing a bunch of fires in Manitoba that are pretty quiet right now. I see all these yellows on these guys. Yellows on this guy too. What's happened is they've probably taken a bunch of rain went through, and I think those fires have taken a fair bit of precipitation. Not so over at the Paw, where say, what's the positive news right now, Joey? Okay. So here's the positive on it. Positive number one is that after this heat wave is going to come a whole bunch of rain, much cooler conditions, snow maybe even in parts of Manitoba. So that's going to really change the situation. It's going to change the fire's behavior. It's going to maybe even douse some of them enough that people can get in there and put them out, get working on them at least, and get ahead on them. So there's some positive if you can make it through the next bunch of hot days. That's a positive now, but also the fire seems to be showing most of its heat signature activity to the west, which is unusual to see a fire moving this direction. Sure, that's not typically how I expect a fire to move. That's true. And that does mean the fire probably has a better chance at some point of turning around and reversing. However, if it does, in a lot of these cases, it's backing into areas that are now blackened and burned. So there's some positivity there. However, we're seeing fresh activity closer to the river there, right, as well. So Opaskwayak First Nation is in quite a bit of trouble still. Mudasus Taquan. Difficult words to say there. These areas are in trouble. But sure, we've watched this week. The fire was really centered here. It traveled quite a bit north. That was nice to see it moving away from town, but then we were concerned that would allow it to flank back around and surround things more. And you can see by this behavior, it did do that at some points. It has flanked around and is now surrounding the town more or less on 2.5 or almost 3 sides, right? At least this part of the res there, 21E, 21B. No, you're a little bit closer. You're a little bit further out, but still, you're quite surrounded there around Reeder Lake. That's true. But as we're seeing a lot of that fire activity moving away, there could be environmental reasons for that as well as control and ignition reasons for that. And I don't have any details on what's being done on that fire. But that's some positive in what's a very concerning situation there. Some pretty wild videos have come out of there. And we haven't seen much for rain in Saskatchewan, which is why we're seeing a lot of look at the fire activity on Narrow Hills today. Crazy activity. So that's where a lot of that smoke we were seeing in the upper level in those sat images from Manitoba were coming from. Whereas very little activity in Alberta right now. Things are pretty cool. I don't know what these are. I'm not suggesting they're fire activity. It could be there's a lot of gas flare-offs and things like that down through there. So sometimes when you see one individual dot, it's not enough to really go on. We know there's fire activity up here. We can see that it's moved a little bit. We know that there's actual fires burning. It's 19 degrees in Fort Nelson this afternoon, so quite warm for them compared to how crappy it is down here. And basically no fire activity to speak of in BC right now. We do have a dot on the map, which I think is near a sawmill. So I don't think that's a fire necessarily. It could be a fire at the sawmill. It's definitely not a wildfire. So other than that, not much for activity in BC right now. However, we'll just get back to this story in Manitoba because we don't have a whole lot to talk about in BC today. We haven't seen much for lightning in the province yet. And I'll probably make a little video tonight or tomorrow morning talking about thunderstorm activity that we're expecting to see in the Peace and up and through the north of Alberta and whatnot, near and even northern Saskatchewan, all along that Northwest Territory border. We're concerned about a lot of lightning flaring up there tomorrow and a lot of it's bad conditions right now for them, right? So heat warnings through northern Ontario, northwestern Ontario, and southern Alberta, Manitoba. Blah. Already, all right, mid 30s and nighttime lows of 16 degrees and warmer. I think we're looking at some nighttime lows in Winnipeg possibly in the next coming days that don't go below 20 degrees all night long. That is possible. And there's been debate. Will it be 34? Will it be 36? Blah, blah, blah. I think because we've already had a bunch of days of this heat and it just keeps building and getting hotter and hotter, that the top end is quite likely. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see a 36 hit somewhere around the Winnipeg area this next couple days. So they don't say a whole lot about it. Nonetheless, that should go through till Tuesday in parts of southern Manitoba. And then we have smoke special air quality statements because of the wildfires in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And we've already seen on the sat maps, as we were already talking about, what this is all about. Other than that, for Western Canada, not a whole lot going on, and we'll just leave the east to be the beast it is and not mention it. We'll be lucky to see a high of 11C in the Caribou today. 15, 16, 19s up in Fort Nelson. Warm all the way up in the Northwest Territories. Bad news, bad news. And what's coming after that warmth up there is a whole bunch of lightning. So that's what we will be talking about. Significantly talking about lightning tomorrow. Significantly talking about more heat. We will get back to this story more and more. I'm not going to make this a whole video about that now. As you can see, this low is going to be moving up towards Manitoba, and we're going to see a couple days where that heat is now in conflict. We're going to see a couple days of possible lightning flashes, some for BC, that Alberta border area looking like a real target zone. We're going to see the heat building, and moving its way east over the next bunch of days. You can see southern Manitoba, Winnipeg looking at 32s, 34s, things like that through much of the week starting Sunday. Extremely hot, extremely early, extremely bizarre to see this kind of heat already hitting the southern prairies. It's not... hitting 30 in the southern prairies early isn't crazy, but everyone seems to be in agreement that this heat warning's already, that's unusual. It's definitely unusual. So I'll have more for you on the channel about that as we get in through the weekend. We'll be coming back and looking at this heat, looking at these thunderstorms that are going to be popping up across the prairies and even in North BC, Alberta, up along the Northwest Territory border. Lots of lightning starts up in the boreal forest expected. It's not good. Things are dry up there. We'll have all the details on the channel for you in the coming days as the story unfolds. Okay, bye now.